Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. Together, they share a more than 1,000-kilometre-long border with Russia and Belarus. But as the war in Ukraine drags on, their position right on NATO's front line with Russia puts them at heightened risk. I want to know how the Baltics are protecting themselves from Russia. And to find out, I'm going to speak with the people directly involved in the process. We'll zoom in on 3 industries: cybersecurity, energy and defence. Safeguarding the Baltics, coming up on this edition of Business Beyond. The Baltics regained their independence around 30 years ago when the Soviet Union collapsed. At that time, their economies were in tatters. The upshot was that leaders could design new systems from scratch. They created innovative and business-friendly environments that gave rise to billion-dollar companies. They also built super online societies, where everything from filing your taxes to, in the case of Estonia, voting takes place on the internet. These digital economies have massive advantages, but in times of conflict, they open up another dangerous front.
Cyber attacks have become a part of the toolbox of Russian Federation's diplomacy. If you say or do something that is not accepted by them or that is counter to their narrative, then immediately after that, there is a cyber attack to follow.
That was Gert Auve, Director of Cybersecurity at Estonia's Information System Authority. I asked him to describe some of the attacks his agency has had to deal with.
Perhaps the most known attack on Estonia, or not the most known, but one of them was last year in autumn, in 2023, when our national train system was attacked. For about 36 hours, people were not able to use their cell phone to buy a ticket, or to see when the train is coming, or to show the ticket when entering the train. And nobody uses paper tickets anymore in Estonia. All the tickets are in the mobile phone.
There have been other attacks recently on government portals, hospitals, and even central heating systems. But one really remarkable incident happened on May the 9th in Latvia, when people watching the TV news were suddenly served up images of Moscow's Victory Day parade instead. Now, May the 9th is when Russians celebrate the defeat of Nazi Germany. I asked Baiba Kaskina, she heads up Latvia's cybersecurity agency, how it could happen.
So the resource that was breached, it was physically in Latvia, but it was administrated and owned by a company from another country, from EU. And our television company was using this resource for broadcasting. So exactly how it was hacked, I cannot disclose, but the goal obviously has been to have this access and on the right date.
The heightened threat of cyber warfare from Russia, especially targeting supply chains that cross international borders, has prompted security agencies to beef up their resources.
In my case, the cybersecurity agency of Estonia, the people working here has more than tripled, and the budget more or less quadrupled over the last 2 years. But we are still along the road of getting to the minimum level to protect, because again, I come back to the fact that we have 9 incidents with an impact every 24 hours, 3,314 incidents last year. And already in the course of the last 2 quarters of this year, or the second quarter is still ongoing, there's been more attacks than at the same time period last year. So the tendency is going up. This is the new reality.
With the threat level so high, government agencies have to compete for talent.
It's a challenge, and for us, it has become even more of a challenge because of all those unicorns, the companies exceeding 1 billion, and there's about 10 of them operating from Estonia now, and they are all in the tech sector, all in the IT sector. So for a government agency, it is very hard to compete with their salary level and to get all the talent that we need to protect our systems.
When it comes to cybersecurity, international cooperation is key. In Latvia, authorities have teamed up with NATO partner Canada to fight cybercrime.
We have been conducting threat hunting operations together with Canadian Armed Forces since 2022. So there are cyber operators from Canadian Armed Forces working together with us, CERT-LV, on threat hunting operations on our critical infrastructure, on our public sector.
That reference to the public sector is key. With taxes, health data, education records, and most other public services primarily taking place online, the stakes of cyber warfare could hardly be higher.
The more you digitize your services, the wider the attack spectrum becomes. But what you need to do in such a scenario is this secure by design approach, make it resilient from the get-go, build systems in a way that security is an inherent element.
Another area the Baltics have been focused on safeguarding is energy. And you can see why. In the months following Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, things got very expensive very fast. Inflation was an issue across the EU, but it was especially extreme in Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia because of their heavy reliance on Russian gas. All three nations took action to end that dependence as quickly as possible. Nowhere did it faster than Lithuania. In 2020, 96% of the country's energy imports came from Russia. Today, the figure is 0. Darius Zelenskis has been at the forefront of that change. His company, KN Energies, operates liquefied natural gas terminals, infrastructure that's been key to ending the reliance on gas imports via pipeline from Russia. The company built its first LNG terminal at the port of Klaipėda in 2014, the same year that Russia annexed Crimea.
Before the infrastructure appeared in 2014 in Klaipėda, actually we had only one channel of a gas supply. That was a grid coming out from Russia. So we recognize the threat and the risk.
One of those risks, price manipulation from Russian state energy giant Gazprom.
We were suffering highest prices in European continent because being inconvenient partner or let's say consumer of the gas, which was not let's say following or supporting let's say the political line of the eastern neighbors.
The Klaipėda LNG terminal is aptly named Independence. Lithuania now no longer relies on Russian gas, having replaced it with imports of LNG from countries such as Norway and the United States. Other allies of Ukraine are benefiting from the company's know-how. KN Energies recently won a tender to maintain 4 LNG terminals on Germany's North Sea coast.
Other developers, major players, started to approach us. Oh, guys, we saw your project. Well done. Maybe you can help us in some, in some scope of our projects.
Estonia and Latvia have also ended their dependence on Russian gas. And all three countries are in the process of quitting the Russian and Belarusian electricity grid, connecting to Europe via Poland instead. But do they have the financial resources to deal with an even more ominous threat? Following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, all three governments boosted their defense budgets considerably. Leaders are paying special attention to the possibility of Russian military aggression in 3 areas. The eastern Estonian city of Narva, where 85% of the population is ethnically Russian, the region of Latgale in eastern Latvia, and the Russian exclave of Kaliningrad. It's connected to Belarus via the Suwalki Gap, a 65-kilometer stretch that's often touted as a potential flashpoint for a confrontation between Russia and NATO.
I must reiterate once again that the security of the Baltic states directly depends on Ukraine's victory.
The Baltics are among the world's biggest per GDP spenders on Ukraine, and all three countries are well exceeding the NATO defense spending target of 2% of GDP.
Russia is prepared for a long confrontation, and so must we. For that, we need to increase our defense budgets. Estonia is now spending more than 3.2% of our GDP on defense.
The additional money is being spent on increasing troop numbers, buying new weapon systems, expanding military service, and boosting cybersecurity. But is this increased defense spending actually having any impact on businesses on the ground? I asked the CEO of the Estonian Defence and Aerospace Industry Association, he told me that exports of defense systems have gone up.
So those numbers has increased, let's say 40%. Of course, the main market, not main market, but the biggest export revenue came from Ukraine.
Defense companies have also noticed a difference in banks' eagerness to lend.
Even the Swedish banks, which been before very conservative to support the defense industry, has now, as they said, that the moral compass has a bit changed. They also now see this potential in this kind of markets.
As a small country, Estonia's defense companies can't compete on price or quantity. But they have built up a niche in specialized high-tech systems, attracting interest from bigger international players like Germany's Rheinmetall.
We have a company called DefSec-Intel. They are providing situational awareness systems. Actually, that's joint venture with Rheinmetall, for example. Rheinmetall supporting also Ukraine, and they saw this kind of systems what was made in Estonia, and that's what the Ukrainians were needed. They financing this project.
So defending Ukraine is the main mission. But what about protecting themselves?
You see, we have lived with Russia through the history, and this rhetoric has been, it's not the first time this kind of rhetorics, and of course we don't have so maybe the pleasant historical memories from the past. Of course, how it explained the nice way. We do not have panic in Estonia. Okay, tomorrow we'll start the war, but yes, we definitely be aware the situation can escalate.
We often hear what's happening in Ukraine described as a war on Europe's doorstep. For the Baltics, that's literally true. And what struck me the most about the people I spoke with was their cool heads. Whether it's managing LNG terminals, sending advanced defense systems to Ukraine, or countering the latest cyber threat. These small countries have no choice but to keep calm and carry on.
Breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. It's a job and it's interesting, but of course there's a lot of stress involved.
And that brings us to the end of this edition of Business Beyond. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this episode, you should definitely check out my colleague Stephen's recent story. He looked into why Europe's defence industry is struggling. Until next time, from me and the team, it's goodbye and take care.